because there's an interesting thing that's going on right now. Obviously, tonight we have the Senate is going to be voting on the continuing resolution to fund the government for 3 months and a lifting of the debt ceiling. Mitch McConnell has vowed to block this by filibustering. The debt ceiling, of course, could cause the first default in the history of the United States. There is a plan B. The plan B is to later in the week, just hours before the government is to stop running, that would be the government funding bill, would be to bring up a clean version of that bill, just the government funding, dare the Republicans to vote that down. They more likely will not. Nobody likes to be blamed for a government shutdown. And they will move the debt ceiling into the reconciliation bill. Now, the interesting thing about that is that makes it a little bit harder to vote for against the reconciliation when that comes up. And so arguably, it gives a little bit more opportunity for the progressives to leverage it. However, on that side, something else is happening. So about several weeks ago, 9 corporate Democrats in the House insisted with that Nancy Pelosi bring up a vote on the bipartisan infrastructure bill. This is the tiny one. On this day, Monday, September 27th. That will not happen today because Pramila Jayapal, the head of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, says that she has almost 60 votes to vote against it. Pelosi has pushed it to Thursday. Meanwhile, how do you get progressives to vote for that? There's talk that she may bring up some type of reconciliation framework bill, or maybe they can get enough public vows of support from some of those corporate Democrats. Here is Josh Gotheimer, one of those who has been pining away for a reduction on the salt tax deductions cap on Jake Tapper's show.
That's why I know we have to get it done, and we will. And we also have to get reconciliation done, and that's also going to get done.
Well, you know the answer to the question. The reason that it's not going to be voted on tomorrow is because House progressives are worried that more moderate Democrats such as you or more conservative Democrats like Senator Joe Manchin will kill the reconciliation deal, the Build Back Better Act, if they don't make sure that it's a quid pro quo. They will vote for infrastructure as long as you vote for reconciliation. Let me just ask you, though. Well, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I just want to be clear about that. I support reconciliation. So do my colleagues. We meet all the time. And let me tell you, we all agree that we need a reconciliation package. And I think that's important for everyone to understand. But that doesn't mean these are two separate bills, right? You've got infrastructure and historic once in a century. There's no reason why we shouldn't pass that right away and get those shovels in the ground and make sure we can do everything we can to stop derailments and invest in our infrastructure and climate and make sure we fight climate change. And then also we should keep working on this separate bill on reconciliation, which I'm committed to passing, and
right.
As Pramila said, we're talking all the time to make sure we can get that done as well.
Yeah.
The agreement was that they were going to be passed together, and he knows that. But he supports reconciliation in theory, right? Like
reconciliation bill.
Reconciliation bill. Just like the concept of reconciliation. I'm totally cool with that, man.
Well, yes, there will be a reconciliation bill that is going to be passed. The question is exactly what is going to be inside it. And yes, this guy also knows that was the deal. The deal was pass them at the same time. Period. End of story. That was the deal. And he's also a liar in terms of everything else he was saying regarding his support for climate change legislation.
Which is in the bigger reconciliation package, the more comprehensive ones, although Manchin's taking a hack at that as well.
But here is the rub. We saw Axios reported that, and it's unclear to me how they articulated this, Representative Vincent Gonzalez from Texas and Fileman Vila from Texas,
It's okay.
It chokes me up a little bit to talk about this.
Well, it gives me an opportunity to say Gotheimer on the Problem Solvers Caucus, more like the Problem Creators Caucus.
Indeed. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
They said they support the $3.5 trillion reconciliation package. So they were specific with the number. But the bottom line is, and it doesn't matter, Gotheimer, Case from Hawaii, Kurt Schrader, Jared Golden, Carolyn Bordeaux, they can all, and there's a couple others, say they're for the reconciliation bill. But the problem is this. If you pass in the House the bipartisan bill without passing a specific reconciliation bill, then you are giving license to Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema to hack away at it, to take out everything
to
they
keep
don't
working
like.
at it, as
exactly.
Gotheimer said.
So the reconciliation bill needs to be a bill. It needs to exist before the progressives, and there's some non-progressive caucus members too, because everyone understands the value of this.
Because Biden himself understands the value of this. This is the president's agenda, which is like normally what these kinds of moderate lawmakers are supposed to be on board for. But they see value in doing this for, like, Gotheimer specifically, the SALT deduction. He wants to represent his wealthy constituents in his district, and that's the exact reason he's holding up the entire Biden agenda. Sinema has her own option, or her own incentives as well. I mean, now she's saying she doesn't support raising the top marginal tax rate and repealing the Trump tax cuts. That's how conservative this woman is at this point. They all have their own separate kind of trade groups and industry groups that they're appealing to.
The bottom line is they are going to have to hold the line in the House and vote on no bipartisan bill until the Senate is done with their reconciliation bill, because that is where the leverage comes from. Yeah. It doesn't matter you pass a reconciliation bill if it only has $800 billion worth of funding. You have missed the opportunity. And if the debt ceiling is going to be in that reconciliation bill, the pressure then starts going to Kristen Sinema and to Joe Manchin, because then they're in a position of tanking essentially the world economy.
They don't look like the reasonable deal makers if they are responsible for shutting down the government.
Well, this isn't shutting down the government. This is the debt ceiling. This is about not the U.S. government, for the first time in its history, not meeting its obligations, its debt obligations. And now that can play out well into October. And I think we should have the progressives force that situation. We do have a deadline, and that deadline now is going to be the debt ceiling for reconciliation. And progressives should keep an eye on that. Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.